Welcome to How You Livin', a transformative podcast featuring best-selling author, inspirational speaker, and minister, Dr. Rick Rigsby. And now, Dr. Rick.
Hello, friends. Thanks so much for joining us. Let's continue a discussion we began in a recent podcast about an emotion rarely discussed, but one with immense transformative power. This emotion is anticipation. Anticipation is simply defined as the act of looking forward with a pleasurable expectation. It's that feeling we all get, that feeling we all experience, that euphoric, sensational, overwhelming surge we get as we await experiencing something or someone, like a special date with a special person, or our wedding day, the birth of a child, graduation from school, or that trip to Disney World, or even Christmas Day, a day we anticipate the entire year. In part one of this podcast, we discussed the negative aspects of anticipation, the anxiety and stress produced, and what we can do to minimize the effects. Mental health experts say the power of our imagination can be destructive, but it doesn't have to be. We make a choice to go to the worst case scenario. But there are ways to deal with what experts call anticipatory anxiety. First, acknowledge anxiety by addressing the negative thoughts. And second, force your brain to think about positive outcomes. I learned this under the worst circumstances. I was forced to learn how to reframe my thinking. My survival literally depended on it. You see, my first wife, Trina, passed away 27 years ago. And in the months following her passing, I found myself in some dark places where no one finds hope or healing. In front of my wife's casket, holding the hands of my two young sons, I told my father, "Dad, I've lost hope." My dad said, "Son, you cannot lose something God gave you. You haven't lost hope. You've lost perspective." I literally held on to the words of my father for months, for years. I still hold on to them. As I struggled after the death of my wife, as I tried to make it one step after the other, just tried to breathe, just tried to function, I experienced downward spiral after spiral, but I never forgot my father's words. At some point, though, I realized I'm still alive. And slowly, very slowly, I began the long process of reframing my thinking. It began with an acknowledgement that I was mad, I was angry, I was lonely, hurting, I felt betrayed, and I struggled to go on. But I forced myself to think about just one positive outcome that could come out of that particular day. And friends, that's how it started. That's how I started reframing my thinking. Let me share with you this one practical tip that I've learned during my journey, something I think will help you toward reframing your thinking. Here it is. If you only look at life horizontally, all you will see are impossibilities. Let me say that again. If you only look at life from a horizontal perspective, all you will see are impossibilities. Friends, if you're willing to try, your brain is capable of rewiring. It just needs your permission. To this very day, I practice looking up and imagining what can be. This practice produces great anticipation for me. It's my mental health medicine. If I don't shift my thinking and think positively, my tendency is to go to a negative place, to beat myself up and spend unproductive hours worrying and fretting. I remember visiting Nigeria a few years ago, a beautiful country in West Africa, amazing people. Friends, I recall one conversation in particular with a gentleman. We were discussing how uptight we Americans can be, how we tend to worry about everything, which caused the gentleman to say this: "To worry," he said, "is like making a payment on a debt you don't owe." I love that. If you're struggling with reframing your thinking, listen to my earlier podcast simply titled Anticipation. But this episode is devoted to that overwhelming feeling of excitement as we anticipate a coming event. Think for a moment. Think about this. What does our brain experience as we anticipate? What does anticipation do to our brains, our hearts, our minds, our overall well-being? Anticipation brings about excitement and pleasure, unbridled joy, and insatiable hope. I'm talking about the power of anticipation. I'm thinking about being a kid growing up in the 1960s. For those much younger, we did not have the benefit of many of the technologies that we enjoy today, like the ability to stream a movie on demand. Oh no. The only platforms in the 60s were connected to loading docks. We actually had to wait for our favorite movies or television shows. For example, every week, all us kids would wait all week long until Sunday night, because on Sundays, that's when we get to watch Walt Disney's Wonderful World of Color. We'd wait for months to watch certain movies. The television network offered what they call seasonal movies, and every child knew what was airing during a particular season. For example, in the fall, we knew what was coming. We knew that The Wizard of Oz was going to play, or Jungle Book, or It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. During Thanksgiving, it was Jason and the Argonauts. Christmas time, we couldn't wait to watch Frosty the Snowman, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and A Charlie Brown Christmas. Springtime, oh baby, come on Mary Poppins, Cinderella, 101 Dalmatians, Swiss Family Robinson, and then Easter, every Easter, The Greatest Story Ever Told, and the 10 Commandments. No VCRs, no DVRs, no DVDs, no streaming on demand services. You had to wait. And the anticipation, well, it overwhelmed us with joy. The positive aspects of anticipation are powerful. Psychology Today reports that when we anticipate something good happening, the neurotransmitter dopamine is released, resulting in positive feelings and increased excitement. Anticipation is transformative. It results in an overall sense of well-being. We want to wake up every morning. We're excited about living life. We're thrilled over what the new day will bring. Well-Being magazine notes that positive anticipation makes living in the present much easier as we anticipate the future. They even quoted a Fleetwood Mac album. Do you remember this anthem? Don't stop thinking about tomorrow. Anticipation, baby. Friends, anticipation is great motivation. Motivation to move beyond past setbacks. Motivation to discover the beauty of the present. Motivation to dream about what's on the horizon. In a recent New York Times article, contributing writer Holly Burns noted that, quote, looking forward to something can be almost as good as experiencing, end quote. Her suggestion, if you want to enjoy life more, embrace anticipation. Studies show that something to look forward to can lower our stress, can put us in a better mood. I've always wondered why I love the excitement of looking forward to a trip almost as much as the actual trip. Currently, my son and daughter-in-law and grandchildren are at Disney World. For months, they've anticipated this week with a building excitement that simply was too difficult to contain. Imagining good things ahead of us makes us feel better. It makes us enjoy the current moment, according to psychologist Simon A. Rago. He studies and is a professor at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine. Rago has written extensively on the effect anticipation has on moods. His findings: anticipation can increase motivation, optimism, and patience while decreasing irritability. You need a boost today? Look up. Remember, looking at life horizontally will cause you to only see impossibilities. Need a boost today? Begin imagining the good days ahead. Don't stop thinking about tomorrow. You'll begin discovering the transformative properties of anticipation. It'll increase your motivation. You'll have greater optimism. You'll experience greater joy and peace. Your heart will be overwhelmed with hope. Friends, that's not a bad way to live life. Why not anticipate more today and embrace a richer, more vibrant lifestyle every day. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. Until we meet again, this is Dr. Rick, asking the most important question I can ask. How you living?
Are you ready to make an impact in your world right now? Do you want to stop existing and start living your best life right now? Dr. Rick wants to give you the first chapter of his best-selling book, Lessons from a Third Grade Dropout, absolutely free. Just go to www.rickrigsby.com/free gift to get the print or audiobook right now.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.